Hello, everyone. This is John Galt speaking. Here with a live stream video for you guys. I haven't done one of these in a while, and so I thought I would do one today. And this is a live stream that I do where I go to the Unreal Engine 5 forums, and we look around through some of the topics, talk about some of the things that people are talking about. Sometimes we do examples in the engine and just general hanging around, doing nothing at all. So thought that, yeah, we will do one of these since it's been a while. I do have one announcement to make. So I had mentioned in one of the other live streams that I was going to start working on a new Udemy course for Unreal Engine 5. And it was going to be focused on multiplayer TPS, third person shooter multiplayer FAQ type thing. I have started working on that. Okay. And I'll just show you guys. I haven't got much of it done, but I have got some of it done. So I do have 5 videos currently made. And I don't know exactly how many videos there's going to be in it. And when I get it done, I'll let you guys know, but it's going to be available on Udemy at some point in the near future. So I do have chat open, and I will be checking it. So hello, Jojo. What's happening, dude? I do have one other announcement to make. My mother passed away on February the 3rd. Okay? On February the 3rd. So we just lost her a week ago. So, yeah, things have been a little hectic and crazy around here. And just so you guys know, one of the reasons that I haven't been doing any streaming or anything like that is because, I've mentioned in the past, I think I've mentioned this to you guys, that I've been basically the sole caregiver of it was my grandmother to begin with. And then it was my father. And then it was my younger brother. And then it was my mother. And now it is still my younger brother. So, her health had been deteriorating quite a bit over the past couple of years. And I've been focusing all my attention on tending to family. And, watching your loved ones get sicker and weaker and die is not something that's really pleasant to watch. And so, yeah, I mean, I've just been kind of, who gives a shit about Unreal Engine when you got bigger fish to fry, right? So that's part of it. And so she finally passed this past Friday. And so we've been dealing with that. Okay, so yeah. So let's get this party started here. So I do multiplayer, blueprint scripting. That's mostly what I do, most everything that I do. And so we are going to dive into that forum section. So let me get me a drink here. And I appreciate that, Jojo. Thank you for that. It's been hell around here for quite some years. I would say probably since about 2013, right? That's whenever the family ailing really started. So it started with my grandmother in 2013, and I took care of her until she passed, which was 2014. And then my father, he'd been on dialysis for quite so many years. And so finally his life ended, and I was helping my mother take care of her. Well, before he died, she had to have a colonostomy done. So I was, taking care of changing her ostomy bag and, cooking meals. And you guys know how it is when you have to take care of family. So it's been hell around here since about 2013. And, you know, I'm sure it's still going to be hell, you know, after, right? So, yeah, it's not been a very uplifting, pleasant place around here. So, anyway, enough of the pity pussing stuff. Let's go here. So, let's see if there's any topics in here that we can maybe chit chat about. Does UE4 have client side prediction built in? I would say no. No, probably not. Steam dedicated server crashing, client.exe cannot connect to session, running dedicated server, Epic Online Services peer-to-peer messaging broken. When is a client player state first guaranteed to be valid and ready for use? Well, it's probably not ever guaranteed, right? I mean, it depends. Those blueprints load in. I'm pretty sure they load in the same order. But, you know, there is an order, like, you know, the game mode, player controller, player state, game state, HUD, right? All those load in a specific order. So, you know, one thing you could do is just do an is valid and keep doing the is valid on a repeat until it becomes valid. And then when it becomes valid, you know, beyond a shadow of a doubt that the player state is ready to go. So there's that. Okay, let me bring Chad over here. Let's see. And John, in your other Udemy player course, you mentioned you were adding the possibility for a player to change their primary or secondary. And you know, you said something about it in your paid Udemy course. Are you talking about hot swapping in game? That's probably, if that's what it is, that's probably something that I will cover in this current course that I'm making. It's not really hard to do, honestly. Once you get your once you get the way that you load your weapons onto your character, however it is that you're going to do that, it's really pretty simple to do. You just need a way to destroy the current weapon, spawn a new one, and reattach it where the old one was. Right. So maybe what I mean, once again, I don't know exactly how far I'll do this new course. I mean, I've only got 5 videos made so far, and this might be something that I make a certain set amount of videos, and then if the course sells good, maybe I'll just keep adding modules to it. So most of the tutorials that you guys have ever seen me do, it's creating a functional game, right? So we start from ground zero, and then we go all the way through the process of creating a complete, quote unquote, complete game. Well, this series is not really going to be that way. I'm really just covering basic principles, like, and it's FAQ, right? Like, how many questions have I got over the years, people wanting to know how to do a very specific thing? So in this new course, something that I've never covered before, I've never covered it. Like, I don't think I've ever even done a video on what you're asking. Like, how can you open up a UI, have your character in the UI, and then say, here's the weapon I want in the primary slot, here's the one I want in the secondary slot, here's the one I want in the grenade slot, and here's what I want in the ability slot. And then at any given time, being able to go back to that UI and pick and choose different things. I don't think I've ever covered that. So I have got that question a lot, and that may be something that may be something that I cover in this series. I don't know how long it's going to be before this series is available on Udemy. Really, I'm only making the videos when I get in the exact mood to do it. And so it'll be in that one probably. Let's see here. Alardine, good evening. Good evening. For example, I do a for each loop from a database and create a button. And when I click a specific button, I want to spawn and attach whatever item class to the current or secondary weapon slot. Hey John, hope you've been well. I've been doing okay. I can't say it's been excellent around here, but it's been okay. We're getting along. Yep, that's exactly what I need. Hello, Asman. You doing Udemy again? Yes, I am going to do a new Udemy course. I still have my current course on there. And by the way, I did reduce the cost of that course. I cut it in half. So it was $99.99 for the course. I think now it's $49.99 maybe. I don't even remember. Let me go look. But I did reduce the cost of it because even though technically it's not outdated, like that course that I have on Udemy is still relevant in UE5, but no matter how many times you try to tell customers that it is still relevant, they don't see the UE5 tag. So, well, this is out of date. I ain't buying this. So I reduced it from $99.99 to $59.99. Okay. And so, you know, for those that were interested in that is a 44-hour course that is packed wall to wall with incredible multiplayer information that you will find nowhere else on YouTube. I guarantee you will find nowhere else on YouTube. And that's a bold statement. So I guess we can get off of that tangent now. And this is Q&A, so you guys feel free to ask questions. This is just hanging out. I recommend John to everyone. I took his first course years ago, learned so much about networking, now work in the industry, and that's awesome. I just used 3 days ago. Everything worked fine. Everything worked perfectly fine. Yeah, I mean, you guys that hang around here often, you know, right? Really, the only thing that changed with Unreal Engine 5, for the most part, now this is not 100% gospel, is the UI, right? That's the biggest thing that changed. The way you do blueprints, the way you do multiplayer, all that stuff is exactly the same as it was in Unreal Engine 4. It's just now you got to work a lot harder to try to find those sneaky little boxes and check boxes that you have to check every now and then to get shit to work right. So there's that. Let's see. What the hell was I even talking about? Oh yeah, we was talking about player state validity. How to use drag and drop. So the server, no owning connection for actor, function, server, set player name will not be processed. The setting of the player name, that's something that I get asked quite a bit too. You know, how do you get the player's name? And, you know, there's a couple different ways to go about it, but it says here, no owning connection for actor, function, server, set player name will not be processed. So to my knowledge, now I may be wrong, it's been a long time ago, but I've done a lot of experimentation when it comes to being able to own a widget. And all my experimentation led me to believe that it's just impossible. You cannot own a widget. And if you're trying to put a player name in a widget, for example, above the player's head, you have to go about doing that a very specific way because you cannot own a widget. And when you try to replicate it, you have to be the owner of the actor. And if you're not the owner of the widget, well, then things go crazy. So Yeah, that's a tricky thing, but it sounds to me like that's kind of what that guy's having the problem with. Maybe not. Like, I usually don't go deep into these topics, but setting the player's name has changed quite a bit over the years of using Unreal Engine. Like, in Unreal Engine 4.15, which is my favorite version of Unreal to date, by the way, you could do the player setting of the player name one way, and then a couple engine versions later, they changed it, and that way didn't work anymore. So you had to do it a completely different way. And then a couple engine versions later, they changed it yet again. And so, yeah, I'm not exactly even sure how you even do it now. I mean, my old templates still work, so I guess the last way that I did it still works. But the player name comes from the player state, right? That's where you get the player name. Actually, let's just go in here and look. Right? I mean, this is a dicking around stream. I'm not really doing anything very specific, but we'll go in here and I'll show you guys how you do that, where you get that. And how you replicate it. Unless they've changed it back. They may have changed it back to the old way. Is this not loading? What did I do? Did I not click the buttons? It's installing pre-record. What the hell is this? Unreal. Come on now. Asman asked, John, have you tried urban exploration stuff? I guess not, because I have no idea what that is, actually. All right, so we'll just go in here and create a default third-person template. And I'll show you guys the magic of the player name. Okay. So the magic is you have to have a player state. You have to have a player state. And then, of course, you have to tell your game to use said player state. So you got to go in here and put it in here. And I just called that new blueprint, which is awesome. You should do that exactly that way, not. So in the player state, let me just rename this. PS new. So in the player state, built right into the player state, if you go in the event graph and you right click and you type player name, you have a function built right in here called get player name. Okay. And this is the player name, but there's a catch to this. If you allow your player the ability to set their own player name, this is not the player name. This player name here, it retrieves this player name from Steam and or Epic online services. Okay. So as an example, if your Steam name is I am John Galt, when you retrieve that using this function right here, your name in game will be I am John Galt. And of course, it'd be the same for Epic. There is a way, however, that you can let players enter a custom player name. I've never done that, but there is a way. But this is not the player name. This is the player name that is default by Steam or on Epic Online Services. Now to replicate this, right? See, if you were to just do this, right click this, promote to variable, and call it player set name, and you were to just do this, that will not replicate. To replicate it, what you have to do is you have to use the switch has authority, this goes here, and this goes here. And this has to be set to be a replicated variable. And generally, if I were you, I would put a delay here just to make sure that this has plenty of time to load and or set this variable right here, just like that. And I don't know, I might even go a half a second, 0.5, just like that. Compile and save. And then we can do a print string here. And let's just see if we spawn in here, if this is actually printing out. It'll be the name of the computer if you're not connected to online Steam or Epic Online Services. There it is. It's called Scott's Desktop, whatever that said. And if you do 2 players, they'll be different. So we'll put 2 players, play as listen server, and advanced 720 by 512. New editor windows. So you can see that one's different than that one, right? So that is how you do it, and that is how you replicate the player name. Now, to put it in a widget, that's a completely different story, but in order to get the player name, first you have to do this in the player state, like that. And then you create a widget. Hell, I'll just go ahead and show it. Why not? User interface, you create a widget, user widget, select, and we'll call this WBP player tag, like that. We'll open this. We'll set the screen size to fill screen. Custom 100 by 50. Hell, I don't know. How big should this thing even be? I don't know. We could put in a canvas panel. And then we would put in a text. Oh yeah, that's perfectly fine. Anchor that to the top center, and we'll zero this out. Size, what did I do? 100 by 50. And we're going to have to shrink the text. So we'll call this player name. And where the hell is the text size? Font 24, maybe 12. And put this to 0.5. 0.5. Nope, that's got to be 0. And then the text, that needs to be centered. Oh, there. All right, so you make yourself a widget like so, and then you go into the character blueprint and you add a component, which would be a widget, one of them things, and you'd call that W player tag, like so. Let's see here. And then you would plug it in. So we'll set this to be screen. And the widget class, that would be the player tag. Well, if you set it to screen, it ain't going to show up until you're in the game. So you got to put it to world, I guess. Draw size 100 by 50. Is that what I set that to? Yeah, there it is. Yep. And then you drag that up here like so. Compile it and save it. And then you got to set the name. And to set the name, let's see here. Well, you could do it on event, begin play. Oh, we already got one. So let's hold down S, put a sequence here. And we'll do this. Actually, let's put this back the way that was, and we'll do it on this one. And so you've got to get player state. Get player state. And then you cast to the player state. What the hell did I call that? See, this is why you should name your shit. PS. Cast to PS new, like this. Oh, and you would want to do this too. Has authority. Which has authority. So this will go here. This will go here. And then you would get the player set name. Get player set name. And then you create a new variable in here called local player name, and this would be a string, and this would be I would probably do this on rep notify. Okay, and what you would do is you would set this, the server would set this like so. And I don't know, would you need to do that here too? Yeah, you probably would. It's been a while since I've done this from scratch, guys, but I think it goes like this. And then you say, you get this player tag here. And then you say, get user widget object, like this. Then you cast to the widget. What the hell do we call that? Player tag. Yeah, you cast to the widget. And I forgot to do something, right? So when you want to modify the text in this widget, I think you have to make sure that this is set to be a variable. Is variable. This box right here has to be set true in your widget. Okay. And so then when you do that, shit, and you should also name these stupid text blocks so you know what they're called. So we'll call this player name txt. Like so. We'll get it here in a minute. So then you get the player name txt, and then once you get that component, you set text. And that is that. Like this. And then all you do is take this local player name string and you plug it in like so. And that will go from a string back to a text. And then what you have to do is you have to do this again, right? So you copy this, and then where we made this right here be a rep notify, it creates a function over here called on rep local player name. You have to also hit Control V, and you have to do this inside here as well. and compile that and save it. And that should be enough to get it done. Oh, wait, I'm hitting wrong buttons here. We got to go this way. Yep. Oh, nope. It didn't set it on the client. But that's okay, right? I still ain't got this exactly right. Well, first of all, this right here probably needs a delay. Right here. And we'll set that to 0.5. Actually, let's set that to a full second. 1 second. And then let's take this widget here and let's set this back to screen space. And go. How about now? Oh, look at that. Beautiful. It did it. See there? So if you look at this name, which you can't hardly see it, it says Scott's Desktop 06 something another. And this one is different, but it's still not setting this one for the server. He's not seeing that. So why is that? What did I do? I've got something screwed up here. It works on the client, but that one is not on the server. And I bet I know why. I bet it's because is it because this? Like that should do that, and then maybe that. No, that is right. I think we also have to do this again. So we duplicate this, and I think we also have to do this. And then people wonder why you can't get shit to work. It's because some of this stuff don't make a whole hell of a lot of damn sense. Yep, that's what it is. See there? The names are correct on both of them now. So that's what it is. And you know what's really hilarious about this is that player name in engine version 4.15, it's replicated by default. You don't have to do any of this bullshit that I just did to get this player name above the player's head. You don't have to do half of that in Unreal Engine 4.15 because that variable is already replicated by default in the engine. And at some point during their upgrades, they changed it to where it wasn't anymore. I don't know why, but they did. Okay. So there you go. Look, there's your free tutorial on how to get the player name above their head for multiplayer. Voila. Okay. Now, where were we? What were we doing? What is my name? What were we doing again? Let's see here. Oh, you visit abandoned houses? No, I hadn't played that. I still use the same 720 by twice. Hello, Scott Lang. What's happening, dude? Okay. Player is being treated as the server and client character. No, that ain't how that works. If you're playing on a listen server, the listen server is the server. So you're playing as the server. And then everybody that connects after that is client 0, client 1, client 2, client 3, client 4, etc., etc. So there's no way a client can act like a server or be treated like a server. Not possible. Replicated T arrays rep notify is premature. Help, I'm the only one that can join a dedicated server. Widget with references question. Add force is jittery on client for character movement component. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this to you guys, but there are two things that a lot of people that try to do multiplayer have problems with. And one of them is collision. And one of them is changing the speed of a character. You know, like going from running to walking. And when I say messing with collision, mostly what I'm referring to here is player collision. Like as an example, when you want to do a ragdoll on a character, you have to dick with the collision. Those two things are required to be done on the server and the client. Otherwise, you have a clash. As an example, if you disable the player's collision, but you only disable the collision on the server, then all the clients are still going to believe that that character has collision when he don't. Right? So you have to do it on the server and the client. And when you change the movement speed of the character, like you go from walking to running, or from running to crouching, you have to change the speed of the character on the server, and you have to change it on the client so that they both match. The jittery movement that's being described here, what that is built into the engine, it has error correction. And so what happens is constantly during the game, the server's keeping track of where the quote unquote player is. And so what happens is the client says he's here and the server says he's here. And so those two fight back and forth saying, no, you're here. 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 And that's what causes that jitter to happen. So you have to get them synchronized. You have to tell the server, I'm changing my movement speed from 600 to 400. Then you have to tell that owning client, now you change your movement speed from 600 to 400 as well. So it's kind of like you have to do it on a multicast. Or at least that's what I do, right? Maybe that's wrong. Maybe that's 100% wrong, but it works on everything that I've done. Somebody asked me here a while back, they was like, how do you know so much of this stuff? And I was like, well, the main reason is because how many ways I know that you can't get it to work. I taught myself how to do this, so I went through the process of trial and error. Well, that didn't work. Well, that didn't work. Well, that didn't work. Well, that didn't work. Oh shit, that worked. And then when I find one that works, I build on it and try to make it better and better and better. But I can definitely tell you all these problems. Like, how do I know that jittery stuff? It's because I worked on it for months trying to figure out why my shit was jittery. And then I came to the conclusion that, oh, okay, well, all right. You got to multicast that shit so that the server and the client are both on the same page. It's ridiculous at how much time I have invested in this stuff. It really is, honestly. Can't figure out multiplayer interaction. It's possible to join the session, but it leads to the wrong map. How to change server IP address in sessions. Cannot pick item in server. Some of these questions must be new. Like, I don't even know what 90% of this stuff they're asking. I don't even know what the hell they're talking about. What is the purpose of set cull distance 0? Well, the cull distance is at what distance something gets culled. Culled means disappeared. So if you set the cull distance to 0, well then doesn't that mean that it never disappears? Is that what that means? I don't know. Don't know. I ain't never messed with that. Network profiler, high ping, using replicated sub-objects, enabling mouse cursor during pixel streaming on cloud PC. Why rep notify functions got called on server as well? Because that's how it works. right? If you guys didn't know this, I will go ahead and tell you this. So rep notifies, what we just did here, right here. The only way that this gets triggered to fire this function that it auto creates, anytime you create a variable and you set it to be rep notified, it automatically creates you a function. The only way that that function gets triggered is if the server is the one that changes the variable. Doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a float, an integer, a string, a name, an object reference, the server has to be the one to change it. And so when the server changes it, it fires the rep notify, which means it runs whatever you put inside the function that it creates. And that's how it works. If you try to set that as a rep notify and you only allow the client to change the value, well, then that client's the only one that knows that it changed and it don't even fire this. So that's how it's designed. It has to work that way. Yeah. RPC run on server, calling from client not working. I have problem with the replication of relative location and rotation, delay replication for spectators, portfolio sharing, everything they made from scratch. Problem with mesh replication. I don't even know, man. I don't know what this stuff is. I don't know what they're talking about. I don't know. Any approach to implement a leaderboard on a multiplayer game? Unresolved. There's a video on my YouTube page somewhere where we talk about how to find out who killed who with what. And so, yeah, go find that video. I have no idea which video it's in, but it's in one of them. That may be something else that we cover in that new Udemy course that I'm making. Maybe we'll do full-on leaderboards this time. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Multiplayer widget doesn't despawn on client. Lobby beacon state. Why? My code is working on clients just fine. Question about replication. Multiplayer. Rubber band when multiplayer stop moving. Create session failed. How can I get all the players in session, including the host? That's easy. That's easy. I believe maybe it's in the player state. I don't know. It's either in the player state or the game state. It's one of them. Player array. Nope, it ain't in here. I don't think. Hang on. Nope. So it must be, maybe it's in the game state blueprint. So let's create a, let's see, game state. The game state base. Is it in here? Player array. There it is right there. Get player array. That is all the players that are currently connected to a session. Right there. Built right into the engine. Imagine that. Right there. But you have to have a game state blueprint. So then at that point, you would have to go in here and you would change that over to the new game state blueprint. Compile and save. And that's it. That's where it's at. So what you would do at that point is, that's every one of them that's connected. So you would say, if you want to know how many, you would get the length of that. The length of that is how many are currently connected. So let's see here. The names, you would have to player state. Damn it. I don't know if I could remember how I did that, but I did it right because I display it in a widget in one of my templates that I sell on the UE4 marketplace. There's a player list in it. You hit the P key and it brings up all the players' names and lists them in a UI. But I believe you get the player array. I'd have to go look at one of my projects, but that's how I did it, right? You get the player array, then you got to get the player states, and then from the player states, you can get the player names, and then from that, you can display them in a widget or whatever. It's in one of my templates. It's hard to remember every single bit of that kind of stuff. Okay. Multiplayer, get player array and set it on UMG for both server and clients. Try to make multicast game according to official documents, but use open level by name. It can't enter the server map. I don't know what that is. Time dilation in multiplayer. Replicating animations from client to server. Global variable with remote procedure call. How to display network information to the user. Listen server, host, client actions, always replicate. Multiplayer streaming solutions. How do you replicate a gameplay tag container? Multiplayer code structure with controllers. Only the server gets attacked and the client doesn't, but the client loses health when the server does. Somebody's got some multiplayer problems. I've had, you guys have no idea some of the strange shit that I've encountered. There was one time back a long time ago when I was first trying to set up multiplayer shooting mechanics, like pointing a gun at something and shooting it in the game. When the client would shoot, it would hit where the damn server's crosshair was. I still to this day have no idea how I fucked that up, but like literally you could take the server and you could run around and shoot and it was fine. But then when I'd hit Alt Tab and play as a client and I would point the gun at anything, really, it didn't even matter. When you would pull the trigger, the particle effect and shit would show up where the damn crosshair of the server was pointed. And I was like, what in the fuck is going on here? And then, you know, a couple weeks later, I finally figured it out, and I was like, well, that was some bullshit. It was hilarious. Some of the crazy shit that I've ran into. Let's see. Static mesh, replicating input action. Can online games be produced with the Google subsystem? Multiplayer Steam, UE5 movement question. None of these topics really are extremely interesting to me at this point. Is begin play multicast? Yes, it is. Every event in the engine is multicast. That's why you have to, just so you guys know, that is why you have to put this after the event. It is because these events, whether it be event begin play, event on tick, event on landed, event on launched, it doesn't matter. In a multiplayer listen server, when that event fires, it fires on the server and the clients. So you put a switch has authority node to make it where If you don't want the client to come through here, he can't. That's all that's for. That's a filter. That's to keep the clients out of shit they're not supposed to be in. And the setting of the player name is a perfect example of what they're not supposed to be. Giving characters weapons, right? Clients got no business spawning weapons and giving them to people. That's the server's job. Spawn problem in multiplayer. AI movement doesn't work in multiplayer. Multiplayer pixel streaming. I'm not really seeing anything here, guys, that's worth talking about anymore. Animations in multiplayer. How to wait until client possesses pawn. Well, there is a built-in thing for that, isn't it? On possess. What is it called? Possess. There it is. Look. You got two events here. You got possessed and possessed, unpossessed. So if you want something to happen when the character is possessed, this event fires. If you want something to happen when it's unpossessed, this event fires. Guys, see that? Do you see that? So that guy just asked the question of, how do you wait until till it's possessed? Well, you don't let it do nothing until this node fires, and when that node fires, that means it's possessed. Right? I don't know what he's trying to do, but that two built-in events right there for exactly what he's asking for. Sure is. And if you guys haven't ever done this, you should, right? So if you go right here and you go under add event, look at all these events. That's for actors. That's for characters. That's for collision. That's for game. And there's tons more, right? Like you got event begin play, event destroyed, event in play, event on landed. Hey, how do you put in a jump land sound? Right there. That's how. When the character lands, this event fires. Play sound at location, right? And you can even break out the hit results. So when it landed, what did it land on? Break hit results. Voila. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to be a dick here, you know, but it pays to explore. Like I couldn't tell you guys how many times I've just sat and I'd be like, what the hell is in this? And I'll literally go down through here and I'll look and read some of that stuff. And then I'll pull out something. I'll be like, well, what the fuck does that do? And I'll bring it in and try to get it to do shit. So it's worth exploring that kind of stuff. So how do I do jump land sounds on landed? How do I make the character grunt when he jumps on launched? Right? How do I make the character do this when he ends his crouch? Right here. See? I mean, there's tons of them in here. How do I make the object blow up when it's destroyed? Look. Yeah, well, you know, it'd probably be more helpful if I could spell. Event destroyed. So when this actor is destroyed, it will fire this event. How do I make the character make a dying sound? Destroy the actor, fire this event, and make it go, ugh. Play sound at location. Right there. Just like that. Anyway. All right, what else you guys want to do? What do you want to do now? Well, just out of curiosity, since I don't remember how I did it. I want to go look at how I did the player names for all the connected players, right? I'm pretty sure it's in this template here. I don't remember 100%, but I'm pretty sure that I put that in here. If you press the P key, once this gets hosted. Oh yeah, there it is, player list, right? So how did I do that? Well, hell, I don't know. I built this template quite some time ago, so it's in here somewhere. Let's see, multiplayer, blueprints, it would be... Actually, that would probably be in the widget, right? Wouldn't it? Let's see, player list row. Is it in here? Nope. Is it in the player list? Yeah, right there it is. So you get the game state, you cast to the game state, you get the player array, you do a for each loop, which that will loop through all the players. Then you get the player state, you cast to the player state, you get the player set name, and then you create a list row in the widget, and you set the player name in the widget, and you add the child to the vertical box. So there you go. That's how you do it, to answer that question. Now go buy my template for $19.99. And you can find out how to do your own today. Do you guys ever get sick of people who's always trying to hawk off and sell you a bunch of shit? Do you guys ever get sick of that? I know I do. That's why I try not to do it too much. You know, there was a time there where I used to say in every video, I'd be like, go to my Udemy page, go to my Unreal Engine 4 page and marketplace page. I quit doing that. But it seems like now you can't watch a single thing where, you know, somebody's trying to hawk off some of their stupid t-shirts or their hats or some of that bullshit. I guess they make a living at it, but I just can't do that. All right, guys, I finished off my root beer. All right. Well, I'm going to bring Chad over here one last time, and you guys will have to speak now or forever hold your peace. I don't know when I'll do a stream again, but just be aware that I am working on that new Udemy course. Don't know how long it'll be before it's ready for sale, but the plan is that it will be put on Udemy. I currently have my other Udemy course, which I reduced the price from $99.99 down to $59.99. And I also still have 4 products on the UE4 marketplace, UE5 marketplace for sale, which is this template we were just in, this TPS template. And I have a first person template, multiplayer template on the marketplace, a simple capture the flag template, and the teams and class select template. And let's see here. Question: was the marketplace worth it? Thinking of uploading some things. I remember your jetpack one. I would say overall, it's not really worth it on the marketplace. I mean, it just depends. It depends on what you consider worth it, right? Because, you know, everybody's got a different standard of, you know, what's worth it and what ain't. Like, when I was hot and heavy into the Unreal Engine and I was doing contract work for other people and working as subcontractors for some game studios and stuff, I got paid an hourly wage for that. And depending on who it was and what it was for, like if I did any private work for you guys, like people who come to my YouTube page all the time, I only charge like $10 an hour to do that. And that's because I know you guys ain't got no money, just like I ain't got no money. But whenever it's a professional game studio that would subcontract me, or someone would hire me to do legit contract work, like an entire game template, for example, I'd charge them like $25 an hour or more. So when you ask, is the making things and selling things on the marketplace, is it worth it? Well, every time I made something to put on the marketplace, I had to charge myself an hourly rate, right? Because, as an example, let's say this third person shooter template that I made. I don't remember exactly how long it took me to make this, but it seems like it was roughly about a month. And I was working on it anywhere between 8 and 10 hours a day making this template. Well, if you factor in 8 hours a day times $25 an hour times 40 hours a week times 4 weeks in a month, you come up with a number of money. Then when you put that on the marketplace and you start selling it like me for $19.99 a copy, Epic takes, I forget how much percent of that. Epic gets a percentage of that. So before I consider that I've even made $1, first I have to recoup my initial investment of time that I put into creating said template. And so we can do some math here, right? Let's math this, because inquiring minds want to know, and I'm as transparent as I can be for you guys. So let's say that I worked 8 hours a day times 5 days a week. That's 40 hours. And let's say it took me a month, right? So that would be 40 hours a week times 4 weeks. That's 160 hours times $25 per hour. That is $4,000. So if I was to consider, okay, have I made any money off of that third person shooter template? Yes. Have I made $4,000 yet? I don't know. I haven't really never done all the math of it. But what I'm saying is, before I would consider I have turned a profit on that template, first I have to get back the $4,000 that I invested in the creation of said template. Do you see what I'm saying? So, you know, but if you ask somebody, like, is it worth it? Well, it depends. Do you want to pay yourself an hourly rate? Do you? Or are you just doing this as a hobby and you just want to put stuff on there and make, you know, 20, 30, 50, $100 a month for some extra pocket chains, and you're willing to invest, I don't know, 40, 60, 80 hours into the creation of it? Well, sure, you can make money doing it, but when you're doing it professionally like I was, you can't just, oh, well, you know, it took me a month to make this template. I put it on there for $20 and I've sold X amount of copies and I've made $3,800. Well, technically for me, even if that's true, I still ain't made no money yet, because it took me $4,000 of my time investment to even create this stupid thing. So it depends. So I hope that answers your question. It depends on what you consider being quote unquote worth it, because what's worth it to me is not going to be the same as what's worth it for someone else, right? Okay. Actually changed my mind. Was looking for some extra revenue streams, but I feel just contracting a second job in the spare time would do it. But thank you. You answered it perfectly. Well, you're welcome. And you know, another thing too, I mean, since we're on the topic of this, let's go ahead and just talk about this. Because I haven't, just to be perfectly clear here, I haven't done game dev, quote unquote, professionally for probably about 2 years now. Maybe it's a year, but I'm thinking it's more like 2 years. So most of the time that I did work for people, I used some websites. So, and I'm not going to mention them because honestly, if I ever get back into doing this as much as I was before, there's already so much competition around that it makes it almost impossible. So there are things that I keep private about the ways that I make money doing this, right? So I tell you guys, I've done contract work, I've done subcontract work, I've done mentoring, private tutoring, and all that kind of stuff. So there are websites that exist. I'm not going to tell you guys which ones, but there are websites that exist where people post jobs for you to do. Okay. And when you're a member of these sites, it's kind of like, I don't know, is it like LinkedIn? So it's kind of like LinkedIn, but it's a place specifically for game dev stuff, right? And specifically for Unreal Engine stuff, Unity stuff, some of these pre-manufactured game creator stuff. But anyway, when you become a member on these sites, you have to fill out a profile. You have to put in your hourly rate, how much you're willing to do, what your knowledge is. It's basically like putting a job application in, like a LinkedIn, a profile. Okay. And so people post things on this website, one of these websites, there's many, and they'll put in things like, I would like to have a locomotion system with a firing system set up in Unreal Engine. And they'll tell you what they want. Like, I want the character to be able to crouch. I want it to be full directional movement. I want the character to come in unarmed. I don't want him to have a weapon. I want him to be able to pick a weapon up. So they put on there what they want you to do. And then they put on there what they want to pay to do it. So for example, somebody might post a job like that and they might say, I'm willing to spend $4,000 on it. Okay. So then people who actually do that kind of work, like me, for example, it's like eBay, right? You have to go in there and bid on it. So if this guy said that he wanted this and he's willing to spend $4,000 on it, I might go on there and bid $3,500. Well, then somebody will come behind me and bid $2,500. And then somebody will come behind him and bid $1,500. And then somebody will come behind him and bid $1,000. And then some 12-year-old over in India or Pakistan somewhere will come on there and bid that he'll do it for $50, right? So it was a constant struggle trying to make enough money to even pay any kind of yourself a salary whatsoever. Now, I will say that that's not the only way that I got jobs. People come across my YouTube videos, and you would be surprised at some of the people that watch YouTube videos. And so a lot of the work that I did were people that come across my YouTube videos and they contact me privately and they're like, well, hey, here's what I'm trying to do. I've got this idea for a game. I need to see a prototype of it. Would you be willing to do that for me? And then we negotiate how much I would do it, when I would have it done, and all that stuff. And I got work that way. Alternately, there were also times where AAA game studios contacted me and hired me for a set amount of time as a subcontractor, right? So even though it's a professional game studio, and this seems weird to people, and I don't know why, because I've known this my whole life about subcontracting and what that actually means. So sometimes game studios, AAA game studios, they keep a skeleton crew of people that are working on specific games, right? Like, for example, the majority of the people at Epic are working on fucking Fortnite, which is exactly why they don't have any other games. Okay? So anytime they want to try to do something to maybe start creating a new game, they either have to do one of two things. Either they have to reduce the amount of people that are working on Fortnite and move them over and put them working on something new, or they have to hire a bunch of new people, or they can hire subcontractors who are not really employed by them, but yet they're doing work for them to prototype a new game that they would like to create, but all their current help is tied up keeping the current game running, right? So that's another way that I got work, which was that way. So there are ways to make money in this industry, but it's really hard. The easiest way by far is to get you a job at a legit game studio. So in other words, you fill an application out for Epic to go work on Fortnite. Or, you know, you fill out an application for EA Games and you pack your shit up and go move to wherever their game studio is. But doing it as a freelancer is really, really hard. And you also get scammed a lot, right? You do, you get scammed a lot. That's why I had to adopt the policy of, I get paid before I click a single button in Unreal for somebody, right? Because there's been times back when I first started doing this, I put in 160 hours worth of work and then the guy stiffed me and didn't even pay me for it, right? So that ended that quickly. I get paid before a single button gets clicked. Well, how come you can't, you could just as easily scam them? Well, if you're like me and you have a reputation and you want to keep your reputation intact as a good game dev, and, you're not going to dick somebody. You're not going to dick somebody and ruin, your clientele, if you will, and your reputation over $100 game template, right? Like, really, are you going to ruin your whole career over that? No. So you got to be careful because sometimes people do scam you. Okay. Upwork used to piss me off. That's kind of what that website I'm talking about is like. It's kind of like an Upwork. And see, here's what really pisses me off. On eBay, eBay's exactly the opposite, right? Somebody will put something on there, some piece of crap, knockoff, made in China, something or another. And it'll start out for $5. Then somebody will bid it up to $6, and it goes to $7, then it goes to $10, then it goes to $12. Well, these damn contract jobs are the exact opposite of that. Somebody will put on there, I'll pay you $4,000 to build this. And then by the time all the bidding and shit's done, some jackass over in Bangladesh is doing it for $20 fucking. And I'm like, good God, you can't make a living doing this. But it's some little kid over there in high school that's just dicking around and he don't care. He'll do it for $20 or whatever. But, I guess that's enough ranting about that. So, and Upwork, but honestly, the same reasons you said, I hated it. Got a lot of work, but clients aren't great, nor the pay. I mainly find jobs through Discord and LinkedIn now. Can 100% agree on the scamming issue. I only work with established studios now. Couldn't work with individuals again. Or some of them trying to steal your code. Yep, absolutely. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate you all coming and hanging out with me on a Friday. And I will be ending this stream here. And, maybe I'll get back into this some, but I'm definitely creating that Udemy course. Like I already showed you guys here. I've already got 5 of the videos made. I don't know how many there'll be. Surely to Christ, it's not going to be as long as the first person one that's on there. I don't think I'm going to go that complete with it. In that tutorial, we legit created a first person shooter game. In this one, we're not really trying to create a complete game. We're just going through some of the most frequently asked questions I've gotten over the years about multiplayer third-person shootery stuff. Okay? All right. So with that, you all take care. This is John Galt, and we will see you in another video in another time. Have a good one.